Metal Slug 4 was released on the Neo Geo hardware in 2002, with SNK Playmore publishing this Xbox port 3 years later. The American release was also bundled with Metal Slug 5, and both games are featured on their own disc, which is pretty cool. As I've mentioned numerous times in the past, the Metal Slug series of games represent some of my all-time favorite run-and-gun games. Metal Slug 4 continues the tradition of beautiful hand-drawn graphics, frantic action, and smooth controls that continue to hold up well, nearly 20 years after the original's debut. Compared to Metal Slug X and Metal Slug 3, this fourth installment feels slightly tame, with fewer crazy concepts and even fewer new features. The lone new weapon is a double heavy machine gun, allowing your character of choice to wield 2 heavy machine guns. It doesn't really feel all that different than a single heavy machine gun, but it looks admittedly awesome. There are 2 transformations in Metal Slug 4. The new one is a monkey transformation. If you let one of the scientists hit you with their projectile, you turn into a monkey. In this form, you have a higher jump and can hang off certain objects. It's a neat touch, but a bit undeveloped. The zombies from the third title return, and if you get hit by zombie vomit, you turn into one yourself. Rather than bombs, you have a massive vomit attack that wipes out half the screen. The new vehicles include the M15A Bradley, which features a great rocket attack that quickly dispatches helicopters and enemy tanks. The Metal Crow is a bit underwhelming due to its slow movement, but can soak up quite a bit of enemy fire. The final slug worth mentioning is the Crawler. It offers no defensive protection, but features the aliens from Metal Slug 2 in vehicular form and has a great jump. It's not super useful, but gives a glimpse of the creativity from earlier games. The level design in Metal Slug 4 doesn't break any new ground, and most of the levels have a been-there-done-that feel to them. The game will take you from urban areas to the jungles and even snowy mountains. About the only thing that felt really fresh was this boat area. A few sections didn't quite flow for me either. This vertical section constantly puts enemies in hard-to-reach areas. Combined with tough bullet patterns, I could never figure out the correct way to traverse the area, and I died a lot. Near the end of the game, you are actually hanging from a rope and make your way down a giant pit. It changes up the gameplay a bit, as you can move anywhere on the screen, but you can't shoot up or down. Despite the sameness, it's hard to complain. The environments are simply drenched in detail, and if you're a fan of the 16-bit generation of video games, it just doesn't get much better than Metal Slug. The sheer amount of variety between each section of the game, the insane amount of things happening on the screen at any given time, and the brilliant color palettes on nearly every frame are unmatched. The animation is also miles above most games in the genre. Nearly every action, every rocket, every enemy, and every vehicle features loads of animation frames that put the presentation over the top. The sound effects are classic Metal Slug, with crisp, clear gunfire sounds, booming explosions, and plenty of great death sounds. The soundtrack matches the frantic gameplay rather well, with plenty of high-energy compositions that are a treat to listen to. Above all else, Metal Slug 4 is an absolute blast to play. The difficulty remains high, and occasionally even feels unfair, but there are unlimited continues assuring you will see the end of the game. Despite the lack of new concepts and mechanics, the journey from beginning to end is still as awesome as ever, and mowing through hordes of enemy soldiers is incredibly satisfying. Despite featuring just 6 levels, it will take a good 40 to 50 minutes to get through the game. Chasing your high score and beating your best time assures you will want to play through this dozens of times. Metal Slug 4 doesn't push the boundaries as much as the previous games, but that doesn't mean this isn't a brilliant game. I had a ton of fun playing through Metal Slug 4 multiple times for this review. Each installment in the series retains that magical Metal Slug feel that's hard to put into words. The beautiful graphics, awesome sound, and sublime controls blend perfectly together to create an experience that few titles can ever hope to match. 4 out of 5.